Something is quietly happening in tomato gardens that produce twice the fruit of average backyard plots. And it has absolutely nothing to do with fertilizer brands, watering schedules, or expensive heirloom seeds. It comes down to what you plant beside your tomatoes. The wrong neighbors silently steal nutrients, attract destructive pests, and suppress fruit production all season long without you ever realizing it. The right ones protect your plants, improve your soil, attract armies of beneficial insects, and create conditions where tomatoes produce so abundantly you're giving bags away to neighbors by August. Today I'm walking you through 6 of the best companion plants for tomatoes, exactly why each one works at the scientific level, and 3 plants that are actively damaging your harvest right now even if you've grown them near tomatoes for years. The 3 plants to avoid section will surprise you. At least one of them is probably in your garden right now. Stay through the entire list. Drop your state or country in the comments right now. I want to see where this gardening community is growing from. Let's get into it. Companion 1. Basil. Most gardeners know basil and tomatoes grow well together. Almost nobody knows the full scientific reason the combination is so powerful. Basil releases volatile aromatic oils including linalool, eugenol, and estragole continuously through its leaves. These compounds are toxic or strongly repellent to aphids, spider mites, whiteflies, and crucially, the tomato hornworm moth. That moth uses chemical scent signals to locate tomato plants for egg laying. A single hornworm caterpillar can strip a tomato plant of foliage in days. Basil growing beside your tomatoes disrupts that scent navigation completely. Here's something most gardeners never hear. Consistent grower reports and emerging research suggest basil improves tomato flavor. The aromatic compounds circulating in shared air influence flavor development in neighboring fruit. Gardeners who've grown basil alongside tomatoes for years describe noticeably richer, more complex taste. Plant 1 basil plant for every 2 tomatoes, 12 to 18 inches from the stem. Zones 3 through 6, plant after last frost in late May. Zones 7 through 9, plant in April. Zones 10 and 11, basil grows nearly year-round alongside tomatoes. Companion 2. Marigolds. Marigolds are the most scientifically validated companion plant in home gardening, and their protection operates on 2 completely separate levels simultaneously. Below the soil, marigold roots release a compound called alpha-terphenol. This compound is directly toxic to root knot nematodes, microscopic organisms that attack tomato roots underground. Nematode damage is invisible until too late. By the time you see wilting and stunted growth in gardens from Georgia to Ohio, the root system is already severely compromised. Above soil, marigold flowers attract ladybugs and parasitic wasps that actively hunt aphids, caterpillars, and whiteflies on your tomato plants. Use French marigolds specifically. They produce alpha-terphenol most effectively. Plant them throughout the tomato bed, rather than only at the border. If you want to stop guessing and start cloning the exact ecosystem secrets that double backyard harvests, hit that subscribe button right now. I share proven methods like this every single week. Companion 3. Nasturtiums. Nasturtiums work through one of the most intelligent strategies in the plant kingdom. Gardeners who understand it describe it as having a living security system in their tomato bed. Nasturtiums are more attractive to aphids and whiteflies than tomatoes are. When planted nearby, these pests concentrate on nasturtiums first, rather than spreading across your tomato plants. The nasturtiums sacrifice themselves. But here's the intelligence layer. Nasturtiums simultaneously attract hoverflies, ladybugs, and parasitic wasps which feed on the aphids drawn to the nasturtiums. The trap doesn't just redirect pests. It destroys them. As a bonus, nasturtium flowers and leaves are fully edible with a peppery flavor. Pest protection and fresh garden food from one plant. In hot southern states like Texas, Florida, and Georgia, plant nasturtiums in early spring before temperatures exceed 80 degrees and again in fall. In northern states like Michigan and Minnesota, nasturtiums thrive through the entire summer. Companion 4. Borage. Borage is the companion plant most American gardeners have never grown. Once you understand what it does for tomatoes, you'll never plant a tomato bed without it. Borage repels the tomato hornworm through chemical compounds released in its leaves. But its most valuable contribution is pollination. Borage produces brilliant blue star-shaped flowers that attract bumblebees in exceptional numbers. Bumblebees are significantly more effective tomato pollinators than honeybees because their larger body size creates the precise vibration frequency required to release tomato pollen. More effective pollination means more fruit set from every flower your plant produces. Borage has been documented as a companion plant since Roman agricultural writing. Pliny the Elder wrote about its effect on neighboring crops over 2,000 years ago. American homesteaders grew it consistently until it quietly disappeared from mainstream gardens in the 20th century. The plant never lost its effectiveness. Gardeners just stopped planting it. Type borage if you're adding this to your garden this season. Companion 5. Garlic. Garlic is arguably the most powerful natural pest deterrent in the entire plant kingdom. Planted near tomatoes, it creates a chemical barrier working around the clock without any effort from you. Garlic produces sulfur-containing compounds, most notably allicin, that release into surrounding air and soil. Aphids, spider mites, and whiteflies are all strongly repelled by allicin. The compound disrupts their ability to locate host plants using chemical navigation. The sulfur compounds entering soil carry documented antifungal properties. Early blight and fusarium wilt, two of the most damaging tomato diseases across American gardens from the Carolinas to California, are actively inhibited by these compounds. Garlic growing near tomatoes continuously protects the root zone from fungal infection. Plant garlic cloves throughout your tomato bed. Zones 3 through 6. Plant garlic in October for spring emergence that aligns with tomato planting season. Zones 7 through 9. Plant November through December. Zones 10 and 11. Plant December through January. If garlic and borage together are changing how you think about your garden layout, subscribe and turn on notifications. Next week I'm covering the soil amendment that makes every companion planting strategy twice as effective. Companion 6. Onions. Onions work through the same sulfurous scent mechanism as garlic, but add one additional benefit garlic doesn't provide. The powerful sulfurous odor onions produce repels aphids, slugs, and even larger pests like rabbits. For gardeners across the American Midwest dealing with persistent slug damage after spring rains, adding onions to the planting mix reduces pressure without any chemical intervention. As onions grow and eventually decompose, they add sulfur compounds and organic matter to soil. Sulfur carries natural antifungal properties that continuously protect the soil environment around tomato roots. Onions are also space efficient. They tuck into any gap in a tomato bed without competing aggressively for light or nutrients. Now the 3 plants you must keep away from your tomatoes. Avoid number 1. Corn. Corn and tomatoes share a devastating pest that gardeners across the country deal with every season without connecting the 2 crops. The corn earworm and the tomato fruitworm are the exact same insect with 2 different names. Helicoverpa zea. Planting corn near tomatoes draws this pest into your garden in large numbers and provides it 2 separate host crops to attack and damage simultaneously. Corn also grows tall enough to shade tomatoes aggressively depending on positioning. Reduced sunlight means reduced photosynthesis. Reduced photosynthesis means reduced fruit production. Gardens from Iowa to Virginia that grow corn and tomatoes in close proximity consistently report higher fruitworm damage and lower tomato yields than gardens, keeping the crops separated by meaningful distance. Avoid number 2. Fennel. Fennel is allelopathic. It releases chemical compounds from its roots into surrounding soil that actively suppress the growth of most vegetable garden plants. Tomatoes are directly affected. The compounds fennel releases interfere with tomato root development and nutrient uptake in ways that are invisible above ground until the damage is well established. Fennel belongs in its own container, or a completely separate garden bed isolated from vegetables. Many gardeners discover this the hard way after watching a healthy tomato plant struggle and decline for no obvious visible reason for weeks, never connecting the struggling plant to the fennel growing nearby. Avoid number 3. Brassicas. Cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower all compete aggressively with tomatoes for the same soil calcium. Tomatoes require consistent and reliable calcium uptake to prevent blossom end rot, that black sunken spot that ruins developing fruit. Brassicas growing nearby deplete available calcium faster than soil can replenish it through natural processes. The result is blossom end rot appearing on tomato plants that seem to have perfectly adequate calcium at the time of planting. You fertilized correctly. You watered consistently. But the brassicas growing nearby drained the calcium supply your tomatoes needed. Additionally, brassicas attract cabbage worms and cabbage loopers that readily migrate to tomato plants once they arrive and establish in your garden. The layered implementation. At the base of your tomato plants directly around the soil, place basil, onions, and nasturtiums. These create moisture retention, weed suppression, root zone temperature control, and close-range pest repellent. At the border and perimeter of the bed, establish marigolds and garlic as a protective outer barrier. Marigolds defend soil from nematodes underground. Garlic creates the chemical boundary that pest insects avoid crossing. In the open gaps between tomato plants, interplant borage. It works quietly in the background, continuously attracting the superior bumblebee pollinators that dramatically improve every flower's chance of developing into fruit. Keep corn, fennel, and brassicas in completely separate growing areas away from this bed. When these 6 companions work together as a layered system, pest pressure drops, soil health improves, pollination increases substantially, and tomato plants redirect energy from constant stress response into producing fruit. That energy redirection is what doubles your yield, not one companion alone. All 6 functioning as a complete protective ecosystem. Which of these companions are you already growing near your tomatoes? And which of the 3 to avoid surprised you most? Drop the answers in the comments. If this gave you the blueprint to completely transform your garden plot this weekend, hit subscribe. This is Plantoria Gardening. No flashy gimmicks, no chemical shortcuts, just traditional techniques, real results, and zero hype. Let's grow together. Start with basil and marigolds this weekend. Add garlic in fall. Tuck nasturtiums at the edges in spring. Build the system one season at a time, and watch what your tomatoes do differently. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.